The Mike Elko era ends at Duke. The Manny Diaz era begins. And before we go game by game with predictions, let's just give you some initial thoughts or some thoughts here on the Duke Blue Devils. Mike Elko is a great coach, and they're going to miss him. New staff. I think that the Duke's going to take a bit of a step back this season. When you look at the offense, they do bring in Malik Murphy, who has, I think, a lot of potential at quarterback, and the skill positions around him should be pretty good. But I think the offensive line is a huge concern, and it really doesn't matter what you have around them. If the offensive line struggles, usually the offense struggles. And of course, Manny Diaz is a defensive mind, and you expect his stamp on this defense to show, and they should be pretty good. But if you look at the roster, other than linebacker, a lot of questions, a lot of inexperience. So I don't think the defense is going to be great here in year one either. Again, I think Duke takes a bit of a step back, and this schedule is really tough. Now, you see the odds here, the over-under win total at 6.5. That was the opening number, because I went and looked this up again. I recorded all the opening numbers, and that's what I use in the video, because we started this all the way back in May, and I want to kind of have an even playing field for every team. So that's what they opened as with the over-under win total at 6.5. Now you can find that at 5 or even 5.5. So if you were able to get the 6.5 and take the under, that is almost guaranteed money. But now again, it gets tougher because that number is 5 or perhaps 5.5. So I think they start off with a win. Elon should be a win. After that, though, you've got Northwestern, pretty good team on a Friday night on the road. I think Northwestern is the better team here. I'm going to go with the Wildcats here. So I'm going with a 1-1 start for Duke. Then it's UConn and Middle Tennessee. I think they win both of these games. Probably not blowouts, but I think Duke's still good enough to win, especially a close one against UConn. But I think they win, again, closer games against UConn and Middle Tennessee. But then look at the rest of this schedule. North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Florida State, SMU, Miami, NC State, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. These are all going to be very tough games. It's going to be tough for Duke to get, in my opinion, another win at this point. They seem like they didn't get any of the lower teams in the ACC. They didn't get to play Cal or Stanford, didn't get to play Virginia or Boston College. It's just a really tough schedule here. I don't see them beating North Carolina. I think North Carolina is a better team, and especially from a talent perspective, much more talented. Georgia Tech on the road. This is a team that's established. They've got their coaching staff in there, and they are, I think, primed to have a pretty solid season. I think Georgia Tech wins this game. Florida State up next. Don't really see this game being very close. Noles win big. Then you've got SMU. I think SMU is a much better team than Duke. So this should be another potential blowout loss for Duke. 4 losses in a row. Then they play Miami on the road. Miami with their offensive firepower are going to be tough to stop. I like the Canes in this one. And then you've got NC State next on the road. This is going to be a good NC State team. So another loss for Duke. And I get it, this is a pretty quick video, but we've talked about a lot of these games when we did the predictions for the other teams. And I just don't really see them being all that close. So there's not a lot to say. Virginia Tech with their defense, it's going to be tough to beat them. Maybe Duke's defense is getting better by this point, and they can hang around in this game playing at home. Maybe they have a chance for an upset, but I don't see them pulling off that upset. I think that's a loss. And then they close things out with Wake Forest, who honestly will seem like a pretty easy opponent after that gauntlet that they've had to go through with North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Florida State, SMU, Miami, NC State, and Virginia Tech. So I think they show up for this game. Again, I think the defense will improve as the season goes along with Manny Diaz. The offensive line should get better. I think they get a win somewhere in the ACC. I'm going to say it's here on the final weekend of the season. They go on the road. They upset Wake Forest. And they finish 4-8. Still a very disappointing season. You look for a path to get to a bowl game, and I just don't see it being there. They'd have to upset Virginia Tech at home or maybe SMU at home, and then also beat a Northwestern or North Carolina or Georgia Tech. I don't see Duke getting to a bowl game. I think best case scenario, maybe 5-7, but I think they're closer to 4-8, and that's my prediction. What is your prediction for Duke? Let me know down in the comments below.